The recording is in progress indeed. And let's see. I see people joining us. Let's give them a couple of minutes.
Sucrit, can you make me a co-host?
I sure can. Make co-host. You should have the access now.
I do.
All right. When you have a chance, can you share your screen so folks can see the slide deck? Perfecto. All right. Good evening, everyone. If you're here for the Switch Together presentation, welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us. And we'll give folks another minute to just hop on. We do have a decent crowd for this, so just bear with us. And we'll just give it another minute. All right. We have enough folks on board. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sukrit Mishra. I am the DMV Switch Together Program Director here at Solar United Neighbors. I know it's a mouthful, but we're glad you're able to join us tonight. I'm joined by my colleague, Brandon Prelu, who is the Virginia Program Director on the Sun team. And I'm also joined by reps from City of Alexandria and Fairfax County. I'll let them introduce themselves. And yeah, Brandon, we can get on with the presentation. And before we get into the meat of this, I'll let our partners introduce themselves, give an overview of their programs, and then we'll hop onto the Switch Together component. And Brandon, can you go to the next slide, please? Perfect. And we have been doing the co-ops for more than a decade, and we have been running Switch Together since the summer of 2023. We owe everything we have done in this program to our partners who have been a pleasure to work with, and we could not have done this work without them. And Brandon, next slide, please. With that, I'll hand it off to Fairfax County, who are one of our valued partners on this, and let them give an overview. And John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Sukrit. Good evening, everyone. I'm John Morrill. I'm the Director of the Office of Environmental and Energy Coordination in Fairfax County. The county is very pleased to collaborate once again with Virginia Sun and Switch Together on this group buying opportunity. I'm pleased to say Fairfax County remains committed to addressing the climate crisis. 4 years ago, the County Board of Supervisors accepted a community-wide energy and climate action plan with a goal of carbon neutrality for the whole community by the year 2050. Increasing the use of renewable energy like rooftop solar is absolutely vital to achieving this ambitious goal, and cost-effective solar projects benefit residents and the entire county. Fairfax County waives permit fees for solar installations, and the county offers a real estate property tax credit for the cost of solar for 5 years. This tax credit can be worth about $150 to $250 each year, depending on the cost of your solar project. Next slide, please. Encouraging the use of solar systems is just one of several energy and climate-related activities the county offers. We have a new app called the Sustain Fairfax Challenge that is full of tips and suggestions to guide you through savings opportunities. You can also create teams of friends or neighbors to see how well your community lives green compared to others. I encourage you to check us out on social media and subscribe to our monthly newsletter, which is filled with news stories, upcoming events, and program updates. If you don't catch these links at the moment, they'll be available in the slide presentation that will be sent to all participants. Thanks again for coming, and now I'll pass the mic to Samantha.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. I am Samantha Heitch. I am the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Alexandria. And very similar to Fairfax County, we are encouraging residents to take whatever action, big or small, to save energy, to reduce costs, to reduce strain on our grid. And one of those ways is going solar. To help with that, similar to Fairfax County, the City of Alexandria also offers a property tax exemption on solar equipment. And it's pretty much the same thing, offering that up to 100% of the cost of the solar installation, and it applies to the property value every year for 5 years. And I know that Sucrit is going to cover this later, but I wanted to highlight another way that is a way that you can make solar more affordable right now, which is the federal tax incentive, which is a full 30% of the cost of solar applied for your tax burden for this coming year. However, due to recent federal legislation, that incentive will be ending. And so this program with Switch Together is a really great way to help make sure that you can actually take advantage of that with wait times for installations of 3 to 4 months. Working with Switch Together, getting that sign up in by the end of August or early September can really help ensure that you can get that installation in by the deadline. The City of Alexandria has a website that is alexandriava.gov/solar, and I will also drop that in the chat for you all, or you can scan the QR code. That has information on both the property tax exemption and the federal tax incentive, as well as how to sign up for net metering with Dominion to get further savings. There's also information on resources such as the Switch Together program, how to make sure that your house is a good fit for solar, and general permitting, things like that. More broadly, I also wanted to just take a moment to share some information about EcoCity Alexandria. EcoCity Alexandria is the citywide sort of brand or umbrella of sustainability and environmental related initiatives, resources, programs throughout the city of Alexandria across departments. You can stay in the loop of a variety of ways. We have our website there, which is alexandria.gov/ecocity. We are at EcoCity Alexandria on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're interested in subscribing to e-news, including our newsletter, you can do so at the e-news website in that box there, and subscribing to the environmental topic. I also wanted to point out a specific resource within the EcoCity umbrella, which is the EcoCity Homes program. This is a website that is meant to be sort of a central hub of information, resources, tips for being sustainable at home. Anything from free, simple actions that you can do today to save energy, all the way up to more complex things like installing solar. We also have a recognition program with applications for homeowners, renters, and condo owners. They're all about the same. We just recognize that there's different actions you can take depending on where you live. It's a really short online form, and by earning recognition, you get a yard sign, which you can see in the left there, and a window cling and bragging rights, as well as tailored guidance on other steps that you can do to save energy, conserve water, reduce waste, and generally reduce your costs. And installing solar, if you choose to do that, is a huge step towards earning recognition. Overall, similar to Fairfax County, we set the goal to reduce community-wide greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by fiscal year 2030. And we are doing well on that front, and then reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 80 to 100% by 2050. And residential buildings account for a huge percentage of almost like a full quarter of the costs, or sorry, of the emissions in the city. And so action on your part can play a huge role in benefiting the community, benefiting yourselves, helping us reach our goals, and also just saving yourselves energy and money. And I will drop those links in the chat. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to both our partners. And just to mention what I said earlier, this meeting is being recorded, so you're not missing anything. It will be sent to both attendees and absentees who had RSVP'd to this session. If you miss anything in the chat, any of the links, no worries at all. The chat transcript will also be sent to everyone who is on this presentation. And with that, I'll get into the presentation. My goal is to give folks an overview, a brief overview on the Switch Together program, and then the basics of solar. When I say the basics of solar, that will cover solar tech, a bit of solar financing, and how solar works on your roof. And before we hop into that, just a quick introduction on the work we do. I'm sure some folks have received a direct mailer. They may have heard about us on one of the social media handles. We are the ones running this program. We're called Solar United Neighbors, also known as SUN. We are a vendor-neutral national 501c3 nonprofit. When I say vendor-neutral, oftentimes we get questions on our help desk about picking one installer above the other, or picking one particular brand module or panel above the other. We try to maintain a neutral stance as much as possible, while also educating folks on all the options out there. Next slide, please, Brandon. In terms of our theory change as a 501c3 nonprofit, it's triple faceted. The first part is helping people go solar, whether it's in our co-ops, in Switch Together, or solar on your own, doesn't matter. Our goal is to just inform folks on the basics of solar. And at the end of the day, whether you go solar with us or outside the program, as long as you walk away feeling a bit more informed about your decision, our job is done. The second part of our mission is joining together. We try to provide as many resources as we can on our website, on our media handles, and other platforms like tabling events. We also do a lot of solar tours, happy hours. We just wrapped one up in Frederick in Maryland last week. We have been plenty busy. That's a big part of our mission. And the third part is fighting for energy rights. Progress is not a straight line. Folks do get pushbacks from their local HOAs or local jurisdictions around net metering and other benefits. We try to mediate those discussions or educate them or assist them through our help desk as much as we can. I keep stressing the help desk. This is something I'm really proud of. I've been with Sun for almost 5 years, and we have evolved that help desk from maybe a staff of 2 or 3 folks to around 15 or 20 people who are on that help desk now. It is a national help desk. So whether you're a Sun member or a non-Sun member, we offer pro bono consulting and assistance on anything pertaining to solar. So that is available to folks across the country. Next slide, please, Brandon. In terms of our inception story, real quick, the person you see over here, that's Anya Schoolman, who's our founder and executive director. That's her son on the right and friend, Walter and Diego. This was back in 2007. That's how we got started. I'm not sure if folks remember this documentary, but it was called An Inconvenient Truth. They got motivated, came back home, wanted to do something. Anya did some research on residential solar in the district. She is based in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood, if you want to know. And she realized how tedious the process was and how pricey it was. And so that's when she started the very first co-op at Sun. It was a bulk purchase model. She bulked up 50 folks in her neighborhood, helped them go solar at a discounted group rate. She also informed and educated folks throughout the whole process. And we turned that one co-op into 2 co-ops. expanded across DC. Pretty soon, we expanded the model to Maryland, then Virginia, then Florida. And now we are a national nonprofit in 12 states, as well as DC and Puerto Rico. And Brandon, next slide. And if you look at our solar footprint, that's where we are right now. We started from the co-op model. It remains effective in many parts of the country, but we have since also evolved to the Switch Together model. And I'll get into that later on in this presentation. In terms of our solar footprint, we have members all across the 50 states. Over the past decade and a half, we have done more than 450 co-ops. 54 of them are in Virginia, which makes sense because it is our second oldest program, and it makes up almost 10% of our solar footprint. During that time, I would say around 11,000 folks or homes have gone solar, and around 1,300 of them are in Virginia. Next slide, please. And in terms of what we are covering today, the first part will be the Switch Together program. The second part will be solar tech, which my colleague Brandon Prelo will be covering. And then I'll wrap it up with the basics of solar financing, elaborate further on the ITCs and tax credits and the repercussions of the Big Beautiful Bill, and go over some of the other basics like SRECs and other local incentives. And with that, we can get on to Switch Together. And in a nutshell, Switch Together, similar to the co-ops, is a bulk purchase group buying program for solar PV and battery storage systems. It is open to both homeowners and small business owners across DC, Maryland, and Virginia. When I say Virginia, that's Northern Virginia as well as the city of Richmond. So for anyone who is not from either city of Alexandria or Fairfax County today who is tuning in, this presentation is still very much relevant to you. And yeah, this slide deck and any of the information or links we share, it will be very much relevant to you. We are doing this program in partnership with local counties, munis, and cities, as well as iChooser. iChooser is another company. They focus more on the marketing segment of this program. So any of those social media ads or direct mailers you may have received, they were doing that. We are more of the educational platform. So any of the Solar 101s, any of the help desk consulting that you'll be requiring, we will be offering that assistance. We typically do 2 rounds of this every year. We evolved the co-ops back in 2023, in the summer of 2023, and we are into our 6th cycle of this program. And as of this evening, we have almost 2,000 people registered or signed up. And this program's open till September 3rd. So we expect that number to continue to climb over the next couple of weeks. In terms of the benefits of group buying, there are 2 big benefits I'll highlight. To state the obvious, the first one is by bulking people up, by getting them into this group, we are able to secure a lower price compared to the market rate. We also eliminate a lot of those soft costs for the installers, which I'll get into later, and that incentivizes them to, on average, offer a discounted rate of anywhere from 15 to 25% relative to the market rate. And the second bigger benefit is, solar can be dense, it can be complicated. And our mission or our help desk is there to make it a hassle-free process. We will walk you throughout the whole process, answer any questions, offer that pro bono consulting. And we have already done the auction. We have picked the installers, and these are installers who are rigorously vetted. We have done extensive background research to ensure that you're in good hands. The installers picked in this program, we have been working with them since 2016, 2017. So they do have an extensive background, and you will be in good hands with them. And as I said before, you will be receiving customer service for support across all stages of the installation and even beyond it. So yeah, those are some of the benefits in a nutshell. In terms of our numbers or the program impact, since we started this in the spring or rather summer of 2023, we have had more than 11,000 people sign up across the capital area. Of those folks, around 1,500 people have ended up signing a contract, and we have covered or completed almost 80% of those installations, around 1,200 of them. I won't get into the details, but as you can see, the spring campaigns tend to be more busy. This year's an exception, just because of the ITCs or the tax credits going away after December 31st. So we have seen an uptick in folks scrambling to join us and go solar before the end of the year. I should have updated that number at the end. It's not 300, it's closer to 2,000. So that was a number before the mailers landed, but we have come a long way since then. And in terms of the registration process, it's broken down into 4 segments. The first part is signing up or registering online. Once you sign up, you receive a preliminary recommendation. If you like the offer, you will be prompted to pay a $150 deposit. That's 100% refundable. We ask for the deposit to filter out more serious candidates for the installers versus folks who are a bit more passive or who will not be as engaged during the consultation process. Once you pay the deposit, you will have a one-on-one consultation with the installer. They will provide a more customized, more focused proposal for you. If you like your proposal, you can go on and make that decision, sign the contract, and they will get on with the installation and the permitting. If you do not like the proposal, or you do not like your offer, or you just want to opt out or wait till next year, no worries at all. Just let us know. We will remove you from the program, no questions asked, and refund you that $150 deposit. Next slide, please. So in terms of the next few slides, what I've done here is I've given you some snapshots of what you can see on the website. If you scan that QR code on the mailer or you find us online, I've dropped 2 links over here. One is for Fairfax County, one is for the city of Alexandria. If you're not from there, you can still go to switchtogether.com, enter your zip code, and still sign up for this program. So this is what the program page looks like on the website. In this example, it includes the logo of Fairfax County. If you're an Alexandria resident, it's going to include their logo, as you'll see in the next slide. And the application includes basic questions on the size of your roof, the slope of the roof, the age of the roof, and related topics. You do not have to be an expert on all these questions. If you're not sure about the quality of your roof or what the installer can expect, just make an educated guess. The aim of this application is to get you on with the consultation, and it lets the installer know that you're actually interested in going solar. Again, we have more than 2,000 people signed up. We're trying to filter out the more serious candidates versus folks who might just be doing their research, or they might not be as seriously interested. So that's the purpose of this application process. In terms of the roof section and orientation or the roof size, Brandon's going to get into the details on why we ask for these dimensions or these metrics. But again, if you do not know a good answer, just provide a guess, and you can update these answers on your during your one-on-one consultation with the installer later on in the process. This is an example of when an answer might get a pop-up message. So the example I'm pointing to here is the amount of shade that a roof is receiving in this case. The reason I'm sharing this is, we don't want to give folks false hope. There might be instances or a case where your roof might be receiving too much shade during those peak sun hours. The age of the roof might be a consideration or a related topic. If you fill out or click a box that prompts this, you will receive a pop-up message. It does not disqualify you from the program, but it's just a heads up. It's a heads up that the answer you provided might affect the production of your system. And, it might be a consideration during later on in the consultation process. So this is just an example I provided. It's not a one size fits all, but just an example. And I think this is the last part of the process where they ask you about how you heat your home, whether you'll be financing it through a third party or whether it's going to be an upfront cash option. And related questions around, do you have any knowledge on your average utility bills? If you don't, no worries. The installer later on in the consultation process will ask you for a copy of your utility bills. You can fix it later on. And Brandon, next slide, please. Once you have completed that, the last step is where they ask you for your contact info. We do not sell this to a third party. This contact info is more for the installer, because once you pay that deposit, folks have different preferences. Some folks prefer a phone call. Some of them like a video interaction. Some folks prefer an in-person visit. This is for the installer's reference once you pay your deposit on how to best reach you. Again, this is stored on our CRM or our database. It does not go anywhere else. It's just for the installer's reference. And moving on, it's a wrap on the first segment. I'm going to hand it off to Brandon. And again, if folks have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. If I can, we will refer it to our Go Solar team. And Brandon, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Sukrit, for getting us started. My job here is to talk a little bit about some solar tech. As Sukrit mentioned, one of our missions is to make sure that consumers are the most educated that they can be as they're going through this process and understanding some terminology and some tech terminology that they'll see going through this installation process. So just a couple of key terms here, just to talk about how solar works. So we'll be talking about solar photovoltaic or solar PV, which converts solar energy into electricity that can be used in your home, business, school, church, or nonprofit. Some common terms that you're going to see here today are kilowatts and kilowatt hours. Kilowatts speaks to the size, the production size or capacity of your system, and kilowatt hours is going to speak to the measurement of electricity consumed over a period of time. Some general information about solar panels. They tend to be about 4 to 6 feet and weigh about 40 pounds. One individual module is a panel, and then a string of panels or a group of panels or modules is what makes a solar system. And so we see that here. And picture to the left just kind of breaks down what goes into a panel, the frame, the encapsulant, the gas, the glass, the junction box, that all encapsulates to make a panel. And then to the right of that is what we consider a solar array, which are multiple panels that are fit together to make a solar array system. So we'll talk about a couple of system components here. The first system component is racking. And this kind of speaks to a little bit of the roofing that Sukrit mentioned during the registration session. Here in this photo, we see some solar installers attaching a racking system to an asphalt shingle roof, which is the most common roof in the state of Virginia. You could also have flat roof as well. You could also have a standing seam metal roof, which I like to call the Wawa roof, where the racking system affixes to the standing seams. And then the solar is attached to that racking system. Definitely want to make sure you have some roof compatibility. If you have a slate roof, many installers do not install on a slate roof, or if they do it at, there will be additional cost for that. So if you do have a slate roof, please during your registration process, please indicate that, and the installer will get back to you to let you know if they do installations on those types of roofs. So Sucrit, talk a little bit about, excuse me, what makes a good roof, and about the shading piece. So there are 4 things to consider when you're considering whether you have a good roof for solar. The first thing is orientation. Because we are in the Northern Hemisphere, you want to be facing as due south as possible, as you can see in the diagram there. An east to west facing roof is totally fine. You're still going to produce good energy on a east to west facing roof. It is not recommended that you install solar on a north facing roof. This is not to say that you will not produce anything, but the production would be significantly decreased than that of an east to west or south facing roof. If you have a flat roof, you have some advantages when it comes to orientation, depending on spacing. With a flat roof in the previous picture, there's a ballast system, and you're able to orient that system in any way possible. But spacing could be an issue there. So if you do have a flat roof, indicate that, and the installer will let you know if you have enough space on that roof to be able to facilitate a flat roof install. Second thing you want to be considering about your roof is little to no shading. Sucrit spoke about this briefly. General rule of thumb is between the hours of 9 to 3. You may even hear 10 to 2. Is when you generally get the best sunlight and the best hours for producing solar. So you want to make sure during those times of day, you have little to no shading, whether it be from trees, other buildings, or other homes. Thirdly, you want to make sure you have enough space. Generally speaking, you want to have at least 200 square feet of unobstructed roof space. So this means free up any dormers, gables, chimneys, skylights. And this might mean that you might use multiple portions of your roof to put your system on. So I don't know, if as you ride around, you might see solar panels all on one side of a person's roof, or you may see them on two different sides. But you want to make sure you have at least 200 square feet of unobstructed space to mount your solar panels. And then lastly, the most important thing, you want to make sure you have a newer or undamaged roof. General rule of thumb here is that you want to make sure you have at least 10 to 15 years of roof life left. Because if you don't, what will end up happening is you'll install this system, you'll need to do a roof replacement, and you'll have to remove the panels and do your roof replacement and then reattach them, and that will be an additional cost. So it is recommended that you have at least 10 to 15 years of roof life left. One of the biggest degraders of roof is direct sunlight. So if changing that, fixing solar or going solar right after you've replaced your roof is a really, really good time. But please, and the installer, when they do your roof review, they will check the condition of your roof and make a recommendation to you as to whether they feel that roof has enough life to be able to handle the racking of a solar system. So these are the 4 things you want to consider as you're considering solar for your roof. But then maybe you might live in an area, or you might have a home where you don't meet all 4 of those criteria. You have shading issues, you don't have enough space, you have a north-facing roof, you might not have a newer roof, and you might need to replace your roof. You do have another option. There are ground-mounted systems. In the photo here, you kind of see a picture of a ground-mounted system. Outside of Sun, I also pastor a small church in the Norfolk, Virginia area, and we took our church solar, and we have a ground-mounted system as well. A ground-mounted system can produce better efficiency. The airflow underneath the panels allows the panels to stay cooler, and it can be optimized for angle and location to get the best exposure and to be the most south-facing. It does provide some easier maintenance because it is more accessible on the ground level. Any maintenance issues, it makes it extremely easy for the installer to get to them. With a ground mount system, the installation cost, there is a higher installation cost simply because the racking for a ground mounted system has to be built. So there's trenching, there's wiring, and there's mounting structures that have to be made. And this does add an additional cost than doing a rooftop installation. But if you don't have the spacing, if you don't have the age roof, if you have a shading issue, a ground mounted system is another option. Generally speaking, you want to be at least no more than about 100 feet away from your nearest utility panel or your utility meter so that you won't have to trench that far. But a ground mounted system can be a very good option if you don't have any roof space. I think this might be a duplicate. So when we put all that together here, we have a home here. We have solar panels affixed to this home that absorb energy from the sun. And then your inverter in step 2 converts that energy from DC to AC to be used directly in your home at that moment in step 3. And then in step 4, your utility will put a bidirectional meter on your home, which will allow you to both send and receive energy from the grid and to the grid. So because during your days, you may end up with surpluses of energy that you've produced versus what you have consumed. That excess is then sent back to the grid, and it is banked or netted for you to then carry over to your next billing to your next billing cycle. This is the process that we call net metering. And this net metering offers a 1-to-1 full retail credit for kilowatt hours that are produced versus what you consume. Again, this may lead to daily or seasonal surpluses. So for example, let's say you're on vacation for a week. You'll still continue to produce energy, but your surpluses will be more because you won't be running any loads consuming any energy. Your net metering works on an annual billing cycle, and that annual billing cycle is determined by your interconnection date. So if your system was installed in November, your annual billing cycle with Dominion will run from November to November. And this net metering works as a percentage of your annual offset as you produce energy month over month. Here's an example of how that might look for you on your bill. Let's say you consume during a month 300 kilowatt hours of electricity and you produced 250 kilowatt hours of electricity. On your bill, you'll be charged for 50 kilowatts of electricity. And conversely, let's say you consumed 250 but produced 300 kilowatt hours, you'll see a net export credit of 50 kilowatt hours that'll be carried over to your next month. I like to say, think of this as the old AT&T rollover minutes. If you have excess, that excess rolls over to be used during your next monthly cycle. And there is a fixed connection charge in Dominion territory. I want to say it's like $7 with tax, comes out to be about $15, and that is to have that's the fixed connection charge for interconnection as well as for the bidirectional meter that allows you to send your excess energy back to the grid. So I want to talk a little bit about power outages because I have you to know that 99% of solar systems in the state of Virginia are grid tied, which means that they are tied into the grid and they do not have, when the power goes out, that system will shut down. The inverter on your system works as a safety mechanism device that recognizes when the power or when the grid is down. So it will automatically shut off production of your system when the grid goes down as a safety mechanism, so that when utility workers are on lines trying to work on them, your system is not back feeding energy back on to the grid. So in that instance, if you would want power during an outage, you would need to acquire battery storage. Couple of things just to note for battery storage, some things to consider, reasons to consider battery storage. If you live in an area or neighborhood that deals with frequent power outages, that may be a reason for you to consider the value of adding battery storage. Battery storage is extremely useful for emergencies or disaster preparedness, or maybe you run medical equipment or have medicine that requires constant refrigeration. These might be reasons for you to want to add battery storage so that you can still provide power to the crucial loads in your home. There are some drawbacks to adding battery storage, one of which immediately is cost. Batteries tend to run around maybe anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000, depending on the type of battery and the size. And it does add another layer of complexity because it does add another connection point. But it does not diminish the value of battery storage. But it is definitely something for you to consider. Maybe you want battery storage, but during this installation, you've looked into it, you're going to look into it, and you're not prepared for it yet. You can let your installer know that you plan to add storage at a later time, and they can install the system in such a way that makes it easy to then come back and add that battery storage at a later time. And Suka's going to drop in the chat for you. We do have a storage guide for homeowners, just a guide that walks you through things to consider as you're considering battery storage to go with your solar system, whether it's with a new install or whether it is with an existing solar system. I think this is my last slide here. And there are just some frequently asked questions that we get a lot. And I always like to say that I haven't checked the chat secret to see if there are any questions, but I like to call this slide the question answering slide, because most of the questions that we encounter will probably be answered in one of these bullet points. So some frequently asked questions that we get are about warranties, like what type of warranties do I have on a solar system? Your solar system itself, those panels are warranted for 25 years, guaranteeing at least 85% production over those 25 years. Your inverter, it has a warranty of generally 15 to 20 years, depending on the brand model. And then the installer will generally offer a workmanship warranty on any work that they've done. So that'll be any electrical work, wiring, any penetration to the roof. They generally offer a workmanship warranty for anywhere between 3 to 5 years. We also get a question frequently about homeowners insurance. Do I need to let my homeowners insurance know that I have added solar? These two, our partner cities, are in Dominion territory, and the answer to that question is yes. Dominion does require you to inform your insurance that you have added solar, and they will verify that by asking for a copy of your declarations page during the backside of the net metering, once you sign your net metering agreement. We also get a lot of questions about maintenance. Do I need to get on my roof to clean off my panels or anything of that nature? The answer to that question is no. Generally, solar systems tend to be turnkey systems with very little maintenance to them. So it is not encouraged to get up on your roof and clean them off. The rain will normally wash things away. The snow will not affect them. It is a good rule of thumb to maybe every 3 to 5 years, just have your installer come out, go up on your roof, check to make sure everything is still working, because the biggest culprit for solar systems on rooftops are squirrels. So if you live in an area where you have squirrels, there are things like squirrel guards that the installer may offer to help protect against that. But it is just a good rule of thumb. Every 3 to 5 years, maybe have your installer come out just to check to make sure everything is still clicking and operating properly. How long does my system last? Again, your system is expected to last at least 85% production for at least 25 years. So that gives you quite a bit of time to get a good return on investment for your system, which Sucrit will talk about in the next couple of slides. For folks that live in homeowners associations, will my HOA allow solar on your home? This is a loaded question. In the state of Virginia, we do have legislation that does prohibit HOAs from adding unreasonable restrictions for adding solar. And Sucrit, correct me here if I'm wrong, I always get this confused. I'm always twisted up. An unreasonable restriction under state law is considered if your HOA, if you have to move your solar system's location and the cost it increase by 10% or more, or the production of the system decreases by 5% or more, that would be considered an unreasonable restriction, and your HOA cannot do that. If your HOA has previously declared covenants that have restrictions on solar, those will supersede that law. So if you do live in an HOA, I would encourage you not only to let the installer know, but also check your HOA covenants to see if there are any restrictions that exist for solar in your HOA. What if I'm in a historic district? Please let your installer know when you have your consultation. Let them know that you live in a historic district. Generally, the ordinances in historic districts on solar deal with line of sight. So let your installer know, and then maybe check and see if your local, if your municipality has any ordinances around solar in historic districts. And then the last question here, which is probably the most common question that we get: how big of a system do I need? And this is the one question that I cannot answer for you. As Sucrit indicated, the first thing that the installer will do when they do your consultation is they will review and build an energy profile for you. And they'll do this by looking at your 12-month average usage, and they'll build a recommendation on a system size based on your energy goals, whether you're looking to just offset a portion of your energy consumption, or whether you're trying to install a system that might meet 100% of your energy load. They'll provide that recommendation to you, and then that will kind of show you how big of a system you will need on your home. I'll pause there, Sucrit, and see if we have any questions in the chat related. And if we do, I'll answer those. If not, I'll kick it back over to you to talk a little bit about solar economics.
Thank you, Brandon. Couple of things before we switch gears to the financing segment, and that's the last segment of this presentation. Brandon, I think I answered most questions. The only one question I did not have a good answer to was Dominion's policy on the 1-to-1 ratio on net metering. I know you're more engaged on that front, so I will defer to you. That question is in the chat. How that's going to evolve in the future, if that policy is going to change. I think that person had a question pertaining to that, so I'll defer to you. On all the stuff that Brandon covered on this slide, I have dropped an FAQ link in the chat. I highly recommend folks check it out. It's a treasure trove of information. There are a lot of good resources there. And, it's all there for everyone. And the last thing is, before I hop onto the incentives, I'm going to drop some resources here. I will be covering topics pertaining to SRECs, renewable energy credits, financing options. You're welcome to access these links. And if you have any follow-up questions, we can answer that on our help desk tomorrow, and share more information on those topics. And with that, Brandon, if you could go to the next slide.
Sucrit, I'll take that question.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Real quick from Morgan. Morgan, that's a very good question. Currently, at the moment, the net metering structure for Dominion is still a 1-to-1 full credit. Now, we are currently by law in a net metering rate case where because of the Virginia Clean Economy Act, it is statutorily required that we review the net metering rate after a period of time. That time is now. That rate case will take 12 months and won't be finished until next spring, maybe late spring, early summer, which will get a decision back from the SCC as to whether there'll be any changes to the net metering structure. The good thing here is if you install a system under the current net metering structure, if any new order is given or if there are any changes that are made to net metering compensation structure, you would be grandfathered for 25 years into that existing structure. So to answer your question, Morgan, don't know if we're still going to have a one-to-one value, but if you are but if your installation or your interconnection occurs under the current system, you will still be grandfathered into that if there are any changes made. And before I kick it back to Sucrit, it'd be a shame if I did not take this opportunity to say that internally we will be running a Dominion net metering campaign where we'll be fighting to preserve the one-to-one retail credit, because this is a key component to how folks not only save money on their energy costs, but as Sucrit is about to talk about, also it affects the return on investment. Without a one-to-one full retail value, it takes that return on investment in Virginia from about an average of eight or 9 years to like over 30 years. So you are welcome to get involved with us and spread the word to help us protect net metering, but don't know if there'll be any changes. But if you were to install under the current structure, if any changes did occur during an SCC order on next summer, you would be grandfathered into the current structure.
All right, excellent, Brandon. With that, I'll get into the last segment. And we know this is dense, so we appreciate everyone being patient, and we appreciate the questions in the chat. So getting on with the financing, before I go into the costs of how solar works, just wanted to share this slide with you from an installer's perspective, how we break down the costs of solar. And as you can see, around 50 to 60% of the operating costs for installers in the business when it comes to the residential market is soft costs. A large part of the soft costs are customer acquisition, marketing, customer outreach, all that good stuff. By running this program, we're eliminating a lot of those soft costs. There we go, yeah. We will get there, Brandon, but yeah, I mean, by running these programs, we eliminate a lot of those soft costs, and we incentivize installers to offer more competitive rates to the open market. I did see a question in the chat about how do we know we're getting a good rate, whether it's the program rate or we're not getting fleeced. Good question. When the installers are selected during the auction process, they're locking in these below the market rates. And so when you fill out that application form and you receive that customized proposal, those rates are being applied based on the responses you are offering. If you need a second opinion to confirm that you're getting the program rate, which is discounted, so reach out to our help desk, attach a copy of that proposal. We review up to 3 installer proposals. What I would recommend is, as an informed customer, apply to this program, no problem. If you want to do your own research, there is a third-party website. It's the Google of all solar companies. It's called Energy Sage. When you enter your address, you will get customized proposals from installers outside the program. You can compare their prices to ours. If you get a better program rate or you get a better rate outside the program, we're glad for you. It's rare. I haven't seen it happen, but I'm offering that option to you, even outside the program, because we want to ensure you get the best rate for the modules you'll be purchasing for the next 25 to 30 years. Next slide, please, Brandon. In terms of federal incentives, just to add to what Samantha mentioned in the intro of this presentation, before I get into that, residential solar has come a long way. The costs or prices have dropped by almost 70 to 75% over the past decade and a half. A big part of what makes solar so feasible over its lifetime are the ITCs, investment tax credits, or just tax credits. As a part of the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed a few years ago, those rates were capped at 30% for the next decade. However, after the big beautiful bill was passed earlier this summer, that tax credit is being removed or disappearing after December 31st, 2025 this year. I'm going to repeat again. After December 31st this year, if you go solar or you install a system, you will not be able to apply 30% or that tax credit to your system. What this tax credit basically means is, if you have a large enough federal tax liability, you can apply 30% of that or 30% of this installation costs to your federal tax liabilities. For example, just an example, if you installed a smaller solar system of, say, $10,000, 30% of that is $3,000. If you have a large enough federal tax liability, you can apply it to that. However, you can only do so if your system is installed by the end of this year. Another big question we have been getting over the past couple of months is, well, what's the cutoff date? What's the latest date I can sign a contract to confirm I can go solar this year? We have heard from installers both in this program and outside of it. Their supply chains are packed. They have, their lead flow is packed. However, if you sign your contract by early to mid-September, I wouldn't say you will be guaranteed, because all permitting cases are different, but they will do their best, or they're assuring us that they can complete the installations by the end of the year to ensure folks get the tax credits at 30%. So if you sign your contract by early to mid-September, you have a good chance of getting those tax credits. We've had a lot of folks who have joined these campaigns in past years or previous years and said, this is good, but we see that solar is getting cheaper every year, or the technology is evolving. True on both counts. However, with the tax credits going away, any of those savings that they were considering will go out the window. So if you have been on the fence and you want to go solar, this is it. I'm not trying to be salesy, but this is us just giving you a final reminder that this is your best chance to get those tax credits. Brandon, you can get on with the next slide. Now, in terms of how solar pricing looks, I know this is a lot of numbers, so let's keep it simple. I'm going to focus on the smallest system size on the left that you see at 4 kilowatts. To echo what Brandon said earlier, you're not priced by the panels or kilowatt hours. Rather, you're charged or priced by the system size, which is fixed. You're priced by system size in watts or kilowatts, which is abbreviated as kW over here. If you go on Energy Sage, which is the market rate, prices in Virginia vary anywhere from, say, $2.70 a watt up to $3.30 or $3.40, depending on the panels, the quality, where it's made, whether it's a premium or your average module. It just depends. But the price I'm using for this example is $2.75 a watt. Just an example. You multiply that by 4 kilowatts, that gives you an upfront cost of $11,000. If you have a large enough federal tax liability at 30%, 30% of 11,000 is 3,300. That is deducted from the upfront system cost. The next incentive is called SRECs, also known as Solar Renewable Energy Credits. I will try not to get too wonky about this, but this is an important incentive, which is why we cover this in presentations. It is basically a production incentive. For every 1,000 kilowatt hours or 1 megawatt hour of clean energy your system produces, you're rewarded with 1 virtual SREC or 1 virtual credit. You can sell that SREC in the open market, typically through an SREC broker. That's how most of our members and most of our participants sell their SRECs. We are vendor neutral, but I will say the two biggest SREC brokers rather on the East Coast are SREC Trade and Sol Systems. If you want any more details on either of these brokers, reach out to our help desk. We will share some resources. And if you go to their websites, there are tons of options when it comes to SRECs. I call it the solar stock exchange, depending on where you live. In Virginia, in the open market rate, I believe one SREC is trading at around 30 or 35 bucks a credit. It depends on how much risk you want to leverage. If you want to lock in the market rate, that's the most profitable. Some folks lock in a 3-year rate, some folks do a 5-year rate. That's below the market rate. That might be 20 bucks a credit. It just depends on how much risk you want to leverage. I will say, if you go solar with us, that makes you a Sun member and you qualify for a 50% discount on your commission fees with Sol Systems. I know it's a lot of information, so just reach out to our help desk. We'll be happy to share more information. The example I've used in this table here, that's a fixed rate per kilowatt. That's your system size. And if you look at the website, they're pricing it at $147 per kilowatt. For a 4 kilowatt system, you multiply that by 4, you upfront, you get around $600. To be specific, you get 588 bucks. That is removed from your upfront cost of your system. So your net cost is around $7,000. As Brandon mentioned, this is a long-term investment. So once your system is installed, the big benefit of solar is it just sits on your roof and it does its job without any other hassles or without making any noise. For the next 25 to 30 years, it is producing clean energy or producing electricity, which you would have been buying from the utility. So during that first year, instead of paying that utility rate, you're saving around $750. Assuming those utility escalators keep being applied in Dominion territory and other regions, over 10 years, that goes up to around $8,000. Over the system's lifetime of 25 years, you're saving around $23,000. So instead of actually paying for the system, you're making money out of it over its lifetime. Again, these are just example numbers. It depends on the modules you buy, any adders, and all that other good stuff. These are just reference numbers. You might save more, you might not, depending on how much shading you have on your roof, other factors. But, this is just an example pricing page. Next slide, please, Brandon. We're almost there. What should you do next? If you're interested, those are the 2 links. It's already in the chat. And the last slide, Brandon, if you go to the next one, is the timeline for this project. We launched the program last month on July 23rd. The auction's done. We did that in early July. It's a reverse auction process. And this program or this campaign is open to everyone through September 3rd. September 3rd. There's not going to be an extension. I'm going to keep echoing that. So if you've been on the fence, that's your last day to join this program. And the deadline to accept the installer's offer is September 30th. So assuming you join by then, you'll have around 4 weeks to accept their offer. If you want to get those ITCs, I'm going to say it again, latest you can sign a contract is early to mid-September. Don't beat around the bush. I'm just putting it out there. And with that, I think that's a wrap. And thank you so much for joining us. And we will leave some space for Q&As in the chat if you missed anything. And I think that's it.
And we want to thank, in these last closing remarks, if there are any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll be glad to answer them before we do end this webinar. But do want to thank Samantha from the city of Alexandria, and do want to thank John Moore and Sarah Giarello from Fairfax County for joining us today. These are great partners in this program, and we are grateful for their partnership and for working with them as we try to deploy solar on a large scale and create an equitable energy system here in the state of Virginia. And then lastly, we thank you for joining us tonight, for taking out the time to learn this information. Again, this webinar has been recorded and will be sent to everyone. And you have our emails here, or our Virginia team email here at vateam@soulunitedneighbors.org. So if you have any further questions that weren't answered in this presentation, please reach out to us, and a member of our VA team will gladly reach out to you and provide assistance for you. With that said, Sukrit, I think that's a wrap. I don't see any other questions. So we thank you all and hope you have a great evening.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.